Good afternoon, CSAEers. It is now noon o'clock, lunchtime, time for food or intake. And today we'll be intaking some advice about how to expand your online audiences using your content channels, both existing and potential content channels. And because it is noon, and if you're like me, you're here watching me, well, I'm not watching me, I'm here talking, but if you're here right now paying attention to this episode of Conquering Content from CSAE, then grab yourself a frosty, tasty beverage to hold you over until you can go grab some food. So as always, I am Steve Trustrom, CSAE's Manager of Content. So I guess the biggest thing that people are always asking me in regards to expanding their audience, because it's probably the most universal means by which people talk to their audience through associations and not-for-profits, is how to expand their social media presence. And that begins with determining what your social media presence should be. There's Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, all kinds of different social media platforms you can use. LinkedIn, of course, and people often make the mistake of thinking that they should be using them all. If they're available, why aren't we using it? And that's just a big mistake from the start, because not every association is going to have the same profile online. It's not going to have the same audience. It's not going to have the same segmentation. So why would you think that something that is working for other people, other associations and social media, is necessarily going to work for you and your audience? So that's a big mistake right out of the gate. Not just because you're going to end up wasting a lot of time trying to use these social media channels that might not be appropriate for you, but also the social media choices that you make help develop your brand. They say something about you because of the audiences that they use. People who are on Twitter and use that most frequently aren't necessarily the same type of people that you're looking for on Facebook or G+ or Instagram. Each of those social media platforms kind of has its own niche in the social media environment that it services, and it does so in a particular way. That's why all social media platforms do not work the same way. They do not offer the same options. They're all looking to build a community of a specific sort. Some are broader than others, some are tighter, but they're all filling that need. So the social media platforms you choose and the time that you put into them should be very carefully thought out, so that you know that you're getting the most out of your time, but you're also talking to the right type of people, and you have the most, you have the greatest chance of plugging into that community that best serves your association. Another thing that you have to keep in mind is that your audience that you're looking for online is not necessarily the same as the audience your association is looking to serve directly. So if you're a financially oriented association, one that maybe deals with accountants and the like, and you're Canadian based, which is why you'd be a member of CSAE if you are a member, you are looking most likely for clients that are in Canada, that are in your local area, your association, your province, your local region. But the audience that you're looking for online is not restricted in that same way. If you go into creating an online audience and expanding an online audience with that mentality in mind, that you're only looking for people who are locally sourced, who are able to give you direct business in response, in other words, become clients of your accounting firms that make up your associations, then you're really just handicapping yourself from the start, and you're not looking at it as the online, you're not looking at the potential that the online community and audience has to offer. So, you have to, when you're looking to expand your audience online, look beyond your membership, look beyond your potential membership, look beyond your potential customers. If you're offering anything of value as an association, regardless of what type of association is, what topics you address, then you want to take that to a global audience, because even though you're not likely to get any direct business from, say, someone who's reading you from Australia or the Philippines or wherever in the world they might be, there's value in them by the nature of how social media works, finding interest in what you have to say and what you're sharing, and then passing that along, because eventually, just the way that social media works, is that can go from Australia to the Philippines, back to Canada, and into your potential markets from angles that are not as direct, they're very indirect, but it's an angle that you might not have direct access to. So embrace the potential, embrace the wider audience, embrace the people who are not your direct clientele, who are not your direct market segments, and consider that all that viral potential, all that massive web of social media networks and platforms can pull directly or can pull indirectly back into what your association is looking to do. So never just go into your social media audience or approach your social media audience and automatically come into it with supposition saying, they can't do anything for me, so I'm not going to target them. You want to just make your audience as big as possible. So, like I said, just shed those preconceptions. Another way that once you've chosen the social media platforms that you think are going to give the best return, you're going to go into the communities that are really targeting your hopeful audience. You've got to look and see what those social media platforms offer you in form of integrated tools to expand your audience. Because a lot of associations and a lot of businesses, even individual users, it's a big mistake that happens when people use social media, is that they create their networks. Say it's Twitter, you've got your followers that already exist, you ask your people to become followers based on social media links on your website, on your blog posts, whatever, like us on Facebook, like us on Twitter. You have those types of buttons. And they think that that's good enough. And that's a mistake, because you're kind of cannibalizing your existing audience. You're only offering the chance to grow your social media audience to the people who are already coming to you and thus accessing those buttons. So what you've got to do is you've got to go into these social media platforms that you have decided are the best use of your organization's time and find out what they offer in the way of expanding your audience. So Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, and several other social media platforms make use of hashtags. That is an excellent way to expand your audience beyond your immediate following. But the thing is you got to be very strategic about it, especially on Twitter. Just Facebook, and you can just keep plugging hashtags in, just until all you have is you have more hashtags than you have actual content in that social media post. But Twitter, you've got to be very economical because of the character limit. So what I use is a tool called #Hashtagify.me. Let me just verify. Yes, it's hashtagify.me is the URL for the tool. And what it does is it lets you plug in the hashtag that you want to research. And it gives you information like what hashtags are often used in relation to it, the top influencers. So these influencers are the people who are really big on that particular social media network. And I think #Hashtagify.me focuses on G+, Facebook, and Twitter. G+ also uses hashtags. So it's currently restricted to those data sources. But the influencers are the user accounts that use those hashtags, and are considered the biggest influencers because they have the largest following. So when they use those hashtags, if someone, there's the potential to get the biggest audience through them. And it also tells you things like who's using it, and what type of companies, what type of organizations use it, and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of information you can drill down through that tool. For people who aren't really big on analytics, the related hashtags tool is or aspect of that of #Hashtagify.me is really useful because it uses imagery to do it. The more relevant the related hashtag is, the bigger the circle around it, and it displays it in a web format that you can drag your mouse through and so forth. So I suggest people use that to find it, because what you'll run into is some people in associations who run events, education sessions, and the like, will use the hashtag event, whereas others use events. And a lot of people think, well, it's the difference of an S. One is plural, one is singular. What's the big difference? The difference is that one is used more often. Don't quote me on this. Off the top of my head, I think it's events is used more often than event, the singular. And the influencers are different. So something that simple as event versus events can radically change the potential audience that you're talking to when you're trying to expand your audience and get your message out to more people. So tools like #Hashtagify.me are really useful for doing hashtag comparison as well as researching new hashtags. So for example, in the CSAE office, we've been getting ready for July 1st for the changes to CASL, the Canadian anti-spam legislation. So we've been doing some socialization regarding that. So I've been doing research into, is Canadian anti-spam legislation, one word hashtag, used more often than CASL, CASL, as a hashtag, things like that. Sometimes you're like, well, it's pretty even split. Maybe I'll throw both of them in there, event and events, CASL and Canadian anti-spam legislation. And sometimes because of just the economy of, you don't have much space to work with, you've got to pick and choose. So something like that is really great for expanding your audience. It really helps you figure out the best way to plug into the people you want to go for. So I suggest, if you're not using it, give it a shot. It's not the only tool out there, but this is free. You can if you create an account, then you can save the hashtags that you've researched, so you can go back to them later. You're not always having to just pull them out of the top of your head. I also suggest that if you find yourself using hashtags a lot, that you build up an archive of them. Keep them somewhere. Don't just put the hashtag in there. Make a note saying this is what it means, this is who it's relevant to, these are the influencers. Get that information there so that when you do social media posting, whether it's just to get information out there or for the purpose of expanding your audience or a combination thereof, you can pull on this archive to better target your social media posts. And the better targeted and more thought out and strategic your social media posts are, the more likely you are to expand your audience. All right, so another way to do it is not all associations have blogs, but if you have a blog, then you can use that to expand your audience by creating, as CSAE does, our blog is very topic driven. We don't, it's not like buy this, here's what we're offering. We have a news feed for anything remotely like that, whereas our blog is topic driven. It's the stuff that's interesting to our sector and our audience. So for example, I posted on social media today a warning about how that there's a new form of ransomware that's out, and it's hitting businesses like crazy. So I posted something about that, and previously we have a blog that was written about the dangers that ransomware poses to associations and not-for-profits, and where the weak points are and how these ransomwares get in. As an aside, if you haven't read this blog, go and read it. I believe it was posted on May the 16th of this year. It's a picture of a little criminal-looking guy with his hand up and a bunch of numbers, ones and zeros going on in the background. If you haven't read that, go read it. But as an example, this is a topic. It doesn't push anything for CSAE. We're not selling anything through it. It's relevant to our market, to our audience, which is associations and not-for-profits. And because of that, it helps expand our audience. It brings more people in general to the website, where we do have channels of monetization like our bookstore and our events catalog. Because people who might not necessarily be attending those events, but say again, maybe Australia, the Philippines, China, we have people in Africa who are subscribed to our blog now. They're running associations in those countries, and they're worried about ransomware. So they come looking for the topic and the value that that topic brings, and that expands our audience, because then they're sharing it with people in their local regions. Again, not within Canada, not within CSAE's core market for monetization, but it's a wider audience. And again, because that happens, we're getting, people. We had a sale this morning from a gentleman in the UK who wants to buy one of our books. Normally that wouldn't happen because we were focused on the Canadian market, but now things like that happen because we've reached out to the larger audience. And the way you can do that with your blog, beyond having these topics that have a global appeal, is look into getting people who are outside of your association to contribute to your blog. CSAE has content contributors from all over the world, people who cannot directly monetize CSAE or Canadian associations are offering us content to put out through our blog, and that's because they realize that although they can't sell directly to Canada because they're a consultant that operates in Australia, they know that we've got people in Australia paying attention to us. So it's kind of a reciprocal relationship where they know the audience is there, so they bring their content over into our blog, and by doing so, they expand our audience in Australia, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. And the more that you do this, you bring in these outside contributors, the larger audience with outside of your core market, and more interested in it. It goes viral. Eventually it works its way around, and word gets back. And so consider guest bloggers, seek them out, maybe contact people who are blogs that have a similar interest and ask to do, can we do some kind of exchange? I blog for you guys blog for us. There's things you can do to expand your audience through those channels. There's also, you can get people who are in your association who might not otherwise have the time. You can give them incentives to expand your audience by bringing their expertise into your content channels. And these incentives, I'm not talking about like, we'll pay you $50 or whatever. There's benefits that your association offers that you can maybe extend to members and non-members within your sector to get them interested. So if you're membership based, you can give them discounts on membership for contributing. You can give them free memberships, whatever. You think about what's within your association's model, and when you bring on those outside experts, again, it helps to expand your audience. So I'm just going to end this because there's a lot of particulars I could delve into for expanding audience, but there's nobody asking any questions. If anybody has any questions later on, by all means, send them my way. And we'll see if we can address them more directly. But in general, you have to be creative if you want to expand your online audience. Think beyond who you normally target with your association's model, your membership and the like. If you're saying these are the people who can become our members, then you need to think how you can go beyond that and get people who are in that sector but maybe not a target for your membership because they're not local, and think about what they're interested in and just expand that way. So it becomes a matter of thinking creatively, doing research into keywords that people are looking at and injecting those into your blog. And again, as I said in previous instances of conquering content, is a good keyword research tool is freely available if you create a Google AdWords account. You have to go through as if you're going to create an AdWords campaign. You just don't follow through. And in so doing, you gain access to Google's keyword planner tool, which to my mind is the best keyword planning, the best keyword research tool, because Google being the search engine monster that it is, there's nothing quite like getting access to the keyword information that's coming from them, right? So the keyword planner tool is a great way to do your keyword research that you can inject into your social media and into your blog and whatever, even your landing pages on your website. The better you target keywords that are relevant to your sector, the more likely you are to start drawing in traffic that's from your primary audience, and it will expand your audience. But also, think very strategically and tactically about how you're using social media in your association. Don't just grab every social media account and just start posting stuff up. And also think about how you're posting on individual things. And don't copy and paste all the time from Facebook to G+ to LinkedIn and everything. Alter the message up. Think of who that audience is. Who you're posting to on Facebook and Twitter is very different from who you're posting for on LinkedIn, where it's your audience is based on a direct relationship where they've asked to follow you in a more business professional environment. So it's all about getting creative and really thinking about that strategic element and doing your research. If anybody has any specific questions they want to ask about expanding your audience online, whether it's blogging, social media, specific type of social media platform, by all means post it in the comments below. Share this around with through your social media networks so that they can gain the advantage of any value, and they can also send any questions which you then can get the value back from if I answer them. Also, you can email me at steven@csae.com. So, other than that, I guess that's it for episode 3 of Conquering Content from CSAE. Manage your content, Steven Trustrom. Share, comment, like, follow, join in the conversation, and we'll see next week. I am going to be talking about something I touched on here, which is how to make blogging an advantage in a content channel for your association that people will value and pay attention to. So that'll be next week. Other than that, have a good Canada Day for our Canadian audience. Happy 150th birthday, Canada. Everybody have a good time. Have a safe, good time this weekend, and we'll catch you next week. Goodbye.